What is up, guys? Coming your way with a little mini 5-part series to kick off your New Year's. As always, I'm trying to bring you content and things that I think will actually help your life. And the reality is a lot of this stems from things that help me personally. And so it's a combination of things where, again, how can I actually bring you some things that maybe you haven't heard before? It's pretty much impossible. But how can I bring you some things maybe with a slightly different spin, a slightly different perspective, and hopefully help you guys, kind of just have your own new year start off right. And it's one of those things where nothing magical about the new year. I'm totally kind of understand where a lot of the crowd is coming from, that if you need a specific date and think that a date is going to be a reason to change your life, it's not going to work. Obviously, that's why that happens for New Year's resolutions for everyone, is they actually hold this date as something magical that's going to happen. But if you take the opportunity, I don't think there's ever a bad time in your life to kind of evaluate where you're at, to get a little introspective, look at the actions that you're doing on a daily basis, and really just say, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? And get a little deep, stemming back, because lots of times, and I'm just as guilty as everyone, because of the nature of your job, my job, our lives, there's going to be some things that are repetitive, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, at certain times you're going to work out at the same times of day, get up at the same time of day, go to work at the same time of day. You have your kid's schedule, your wife's schedule, your spouse's schedule, whatever it is. So just as a result of the nature of obviously existing in a somewhat organized society, you're going to do some repetitive things, and that's not bad. The issue is sometimes you have that Groundhog Day effect, where lots of times maybe you're doing some not wholly effective or as efficient things as you could, and you just kind of have it on repeat. And the reality too is no one is immune to what we take in. So no matter how, maybe profound or deep you think the principles or ethics that lead your life, you're still influenced by society. So it's the people that are around you, maybe your coworkers, maybe were the people you interact with, even just people that you interact with on a daily basis that maybe you're not even that close with, all the way up to media, what you see on social media, what you see on TV, what you see in whatever. Everyone is influenced. And so I think now more than ever can be a good time to always take a step back and say, why am I really doing the things that I'm doing? And it's not always, people aren't always influenced by the extremely superficial, but honestly, some people are, where it's okay, you look at these things that maybe you just see on a purely quick look and glance and superficial level are enticing or appealing, and they somehow kind of become your driving force behind some of the things that you're doing. And the issue with that is, one, I think fulfillment comes from really having a deeper understanding of what's the driving force of your life and then ultimately all your actions. But two, adherence stems from that as well too. That's why you have so many people that don't adhere to their New Year's resolutions, whether it's a life thing or a fitness thing. If you just have a superficial driver, at some point in time that's going to change, or it's going to disappear, or it's not going to really be enough to keep you doing things that are difficult or uncomfortable or whatever. So that's really the goal of this series of videos. Hopefully give you guys, I'm kind of breaking it down into 5 big points, stepping from this first video, and giving you hopefully some actionable things that you can do. So it's okay. Some of it's just some concepts to give you guys to think about. Some of it's some actual actionable things that you can kind of do and take right away and say, oh, that makes sense. I can do this. I can change this or whatever it is. And then the reality too is, I always want you guys to realize, obviously, information that I give you stems from something that produces results. So again, if I'm giving you training things, it's not just for myself, that's always a part of it, but it stems from, okay, well, here's the actual results I've seen this produce, and things I stem honestly personally from myself, because again, I don't want you guys to ever think that I'm providing information obviously from down upon a mountaintop. And so the same thing is, all of these things I'm taking it as a good opportunity. One is I'm literally just kind of writing up the notes for these videos, and then just so we kind of maybe make it a little bit more personal. You understand that I genuinely believe these things if I talk about what I'm actually going to look at and focus on in my life. But then sometimes, dude, just to provide an example of, okay, well, here's this concept, here's this thing. What the hell is he talking about? I'm going to relate some of this stuff to things that I'm looking at or I'm focusing on as well, too. And again, I don't know, maybe fast forward past that part if you're not into it. But again, that's kind of the reasoning behind it. Is again, I want you to actually see that there's some stem from behind this stuff. So from my personal life, how I've seen it produce results. And again, it's maybe validation or testimonial to the fact that I think it actually is beneficial, helpful. And so here's the actual things I'm doing in my life. That's how actual and beneficial I think it is. And then if nothing else, maybe like I said, to kind of provide some examples and get the gears turning. But the reality is, so all these things will be extremely personal to you. I'm obviously going to give some of the examples for me, myself. And again, because it's close to home and it's things that really stem true for me, I can speak to it with honesty and transparency. if that you're not in the same boat or don't have similar things, please, it's not from a judgy place or implying that my motivations or my whys are better or whatever. Everyone's different. It changes at different points in your life. But again, just kind of providing that stuff for some actual things. So this video is kind of the big why video. And again, I think this is one of those things where some things that you hear this time of year are cliche, and some of it's because it's cheesy and it's catchphrases, and some of it's cliche things in life are cliche because they're so accurate and all humans have experienced them. So if you have 8 billion people saying the same thing because they've experienced it, obviously there's certain things that kids experience, that adults experience, that married people experience, that people that have kids, people that have grandkids, people that get close to death, people that lose loved ones. You'll hear things like just the nature of the human condition that people will repeat all the time. And those are things that, again, get rid of the billboard type stuff. That's like, okay, I'm not a unique snowflake. Maybe I could listen to the people that have been through what I've been through, that maybe have been through it and are where I want to be. And again, you should hopefully have some role models and people in your life that's like, you don't obviously want to be exactly like them. But again, it's if you're just starting to compete in bodybuilding, it's a smart thing to look at somebody that's been competing successfully for 10, 20 years. At least get information from them, not implying that everything they're doing is right. So this is the big why video because it's such a truth that, again, I think if you look at what we're pushed on with society, you're not getting too deep from here, but a good person in society, from our biggest influences, I should say, from media, from other people that aren't close to home, is to be a good consumer. So if you look at a lot of stuff that are pushed our way, it's pushed to consume, and not to get conspiracy theory. But a lot of the news, a lot of the things you see on social media, it's been well studied that when people are not happy or feel not content or feel discomfort, it's proven that people will sometimes try and fill that with material things. And so again, to buy something to make themselves feel better. So there's a reason lots of times on social media and on the news, you'll see bad things, you'll see bad news. And it's literally, I believe Facebook got caught for it, where they would push negative comments and things higher and negative posts higher on your feed, because that creates that discomfort, that creates that not feeling content. And as a result of that, they push more stuff on your feed as a result then to buy. And again, literally within the theme of the stuff that you're looking at. And it's not a joke, it's a business. And whether you look at it from pure cold and calculating from Facebook, it's kind of like brilliant, but it's brilliant like the, Terminator machine's brilliant, kind of brilliant. But so I say all that because a lot of the things that you're going to take in are going to push you towards purely superficial things. And as I relate this to life and as I relate this to fitness goals, you'll literally in the fitness world, the reality is you'll see all these entrepreneurs on their private jets, on their laptops, working from the beach, working from a hammock. You'll see people taking pictures next to their Lamborghini. And in personal stuff, you'll see people posting, perfect pictures of their happy family, posting their big house, posting their nice cars, posting whatever it is. And so the reality is you're influenced by that. And some of that can be fine. Some people, like I always use the example of cars. Cars make no sense to me because I'm not a car person. But I totally get, like, there's people that, I look at, Rob and Dane, they know all about cars. They, fix cars themselves. They, drive them fast and they beat the shit out of them and they do all, the drift stuff. And, they know about cars. It's like their passion. It's like their hobby. So for someone like that to spend a lot of money on cars, it makes sense. Whereas for me, the only time I've ever spent money on cars, honestly, was because I was influenced by people I was around and people I worked with. And basically, I bought something to impress people, and I bought something to improve other people's opinion of me. And I'll be the first to admit that I did do that when I started training. And it's pretty sad to say out loud now. So I say all that stuff for it's take a step back and really think about why are you doing things that you're doing. And some of it now I used to say, I don't know if this is clever or not. I think that I say, we used to be pushed the American dream, and now we're pushed a little bit more the entrepreneur dream, which is basically the same thing, but we have this kind of entrepreneur thing presented on Instagram, where it's if you're not having 8 million businesses and multiple revenue streams and showing how you're balling and, you're making business deals, and you look at The Rock, and nothing against The Rock, but the guy's the busiest human being on the earth and probably has 40 businesses, another 40 we don't even know about. And if that's cool to you, some people are so motivated and driven to do those things. I think I read stuff that he says about motivated just to kind of have an empire, basically. Maybe I'm getting out of line or whatever. But the reality is that's good if that's your thing. But if you're pursuing that and it's not your thing, it'll eventually lead to dissatisfaction. You'll keep putting these things in your way of one more business, one more thing, one more whatever. And then you'll come out the other side feeling exactly the same. So I always say, big thing is, what's the driving force of your life? What's the why? Why are you doing all the things that you're doing? Who is it for? What is it for? And there can be multiple things here. And I say the big thing on all this, I'm going to say a couple times, is write it down and just take some time to write it down. It takes longer to think. There's something about visualizing things that you write down. But for me personally, when I give the example now, is it's relationships. And honestly, there were times when, again, I was in my early 20s, mid 20s. I had no idea what I was doing. Honestly, when I married my wife, like, thank God she's amazing, but I wasn't really mature enough to understand that, oh, my life should be more about her now instead of about my stuff. And I don't know, maybe some people just kind of have these coming to Jesus moments where it hits them all of a sudden the day they get married. But for me, it was a slow transition. But I really honestly was always about, like, I kind of, when I was in high school and college and younger and coming up, I did get a lot of actual long-term satisfaction and joy from quality time with my family. At that point in time, my parents and relatives and my friends. And I realized looking back, like, that's always where I've kind of had the most satisfaction, doing things with them. And now as I get older, doing things for them. And so now as a STEM for me is my biggest driving force for everything, honestly, is my family, my wife and my kids. And so taking that a step further, I'm like, okay, well, what does that actually mean? I say that, but what am I looking for? What do I want to do? What does that translate to me? And I honestly want to create, again, from what does it mean specifically for me? I don't want to have them limited with any opportunities, not meaning that we need to have private jets anywhere, we need to go on expensive vacations, but little stuff that I think is nice. It's a nice luxury to have, first world luxury still. But if I want them to go to a good school, I want to be able to afford it. If I want them to eat what I think is a certain way healthy, I want to be able to afford it. If I want, when they're 16, to be able to buy them a piece of shit car so they can at least have a car, I'd like to be afford that. So there's things where it's one, I have financial needs. And I use the joke, it's the Kanye line that it's having money's not everything, not having it is. Hate to quote Kanye, but it's such a good line. And that's the reality. I don't want my life to be defined by my lack of money. I don't want my kids to grow up just feeling like I'm constantly stressed. They feel the stress of not having money, not being able to do things that I think would be nice for them to do. So some is meeting the minimum financial needs of what is my version of a comfortable, nice life. And then the second is, honestly, I want freedom. I think that's the true thing that I'm chasing and can honestly always keep adding to a little bit, is I want freedom to do the things that I want to do with them, to create as much time with them as possible. So if I'd say there's the minimum requirements, honestly, if we're not eating, we're not sleeping, we don't have a home to live in, it doesn't matter about the other stuff. Like, hey, let's have some quality time together, living, in a van down by the river. Not implying that's a horrible thing if you live in a van down by the river. But so there are minimum financial requirements, and then my luxury requirements past that is to create freedom to have as much time with them as I possibly can. And so those are my number one goals. My next goals from there is honestly, professionally, my next thing I'd say is I like to give back. I mean, I honestly, the more I've been doing this, to be honest, when I started training people when I was in my early 20s, I liked it, but I didn't really have a whole lot of depth to it. I was like, oh, someone lost weight, cool. Oh, someone did this. And it was as I actually saw people telling me that I changed their lives, because I don't know what it's like to be 45 when I'm 22, but I really kind of got, wow, this is great. This is what everybody talks about. So honestly, a big driving force, which luckily can go hand in hand with what I do for a living, is to provide people with great content, which ultimately, hopefully, is to give them good results and, more importantly, make their life better in some capacity. And thirdly, honestly, my big drivers, and this is the order of my whys, is I need some sort of personal progression and development. I like the challenge of competing. I like the challenge of continuing education. I like the feeling of training every day. So those are things that honestly I do personally need to a certain degree. But the trick with all of those things is there's going to be a balance of all of those. And so prioritizing all of those where I'm keeping my main goals, my main whys ahead of the other ones. But then more importantly from that, is having a balance, again, of all those things. And I'll talk about the reality or lack of reality of what balance means at that point in time. So I say, and again, I give those examples of my things. I want to reiterate, there's no wrong answer here. I mean, like, again, so I think The Rock, and sorry, Rock, I know he's a big member and a fan. But if your goal is to be this kind of entrepreneur thing, and maybe you want to have, and I look at some people's jobs like impact the world. Someone's curing cancer, someone basically cured AIDS, stuff like that, where it's like I'm not taking anything away from people whose profession is a main driving goal of their life. So whatever it is for you, look at that, figure out what it is, and it could be something, and it'll change. This is the big thing I say as well too, is it'll change. Hopefully it'll change. Sometimes it might make a 180. Sometimes it'll be a progression, because in me it was a progression of relationships and realizing what I'm supposed to do with those relationships. Let me clarify, I'm still an asshole. So I still make selfish decisions. I still get those priorities out of order, and I still struggle with those priorities and scheduling those times, and then feelings of discontent when I'm doing one thing and I still have that other thing. So I'll talk about that hopefully, because maybe some of you guys struggle with that as well too. But anyway, so take all those things, because this will come into the next sections as follows. Know what your top priorities are, know what those deeper things are, and those will really, the big thing is to make sure your actions align with that. Actions as far as time, the most important thing. Actions as far as quality time, when are you actually being effective as opposed to just kind of maybe doing some things you have to do. And then also too is looking for, what are you trying to actually do? What are you trying to get done this year? So what are you trying to do with your physique, personally, professionally? What are you trying to progress? What are you trying to change? The only way you're going to adhere to those things is if the actions that you're doing to try and change the things you're trying to change or progress the things you're trying to progress line up with those whys, those deep-seated things. And so again, this is where your schedule starts. And I'll kind of, again, that's coming into the next video we're going to get into now. And I'm going to say it again because I said at the beginning and I'll say it now too, is write these things down. And again, speaking personally, this is one of the absolute biggest mistakes I've made for the longest time, is I would read things. People say that. They're like, write down your goals, write down your vision for this year. And again, I'll have to look it up. If somebody knows, please comment below. There's some actual like psychological or psychology. There's some sort of term or occurrence for where you read something. It's the same as like eat your vegetables, and people read about eating their vegetables, and you actually feel better, where there's some point like you think you've actually done and produced some change just by reading about it instead of producing the actions. So I was guilty of that for not writing things down. So please write things down. Write down your why. Feel free to look at it often. Feel free to change it, progress it, whatever it is. Change the priorities. And then I look at, think about, take a step back and look at, will your why be the same 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 50 years from now? And some of that I think is a great reason to look at, is your why, is it really your why? Or is it something just kind of more superficial? And again, hopefully, I'm not, again, I hate to say this kind of stuff because I feel like I'm kind of saying this is the way every human being will go, but hopefully guys use your brains. I'm not saying this is it. But a lot of people, if you're watching this and you're 20, 22, 25, whatever, maybe you're single, maybe you're just with somebody. I mean, I think that things will change. Obviously, if you're single, when you're in a relationship, when you're married, when you have kids, I know things will change as my kids change, as I become, unfortunately, less important to them and their friends become more important. As schedules get more demanding and I see less and less of them, to the point when they actually leave my house and they go to college, my wife and I just sit around and cry all day, to the point where they're adults and I have grandkids, and then to the point where I'm getting old and I'm, close to death. I don't want to get too deep on you guys. But again, your why and things to some degree, I think, will change and stem and evolve. But that was for me why, really looking at, figuring out kind of young and evolving now, I don't think my big why, my deep-seated why will ever really change. And again, it'll shift. I think my wife should be the most important relationship in my life, and then my kids. And then there's a component, again, of myself. What do I need myself to actually feel like I'm doing something? For me, honestly, I think the ultimate progression for me is where it's less about that and more of my personal satisfaction and well-being and sense of purpose comes from doing things for others. But being honest, I'm still not quite there. I still have things that I need to do. I feel like I have my time, my goals, my focus. And I'm not implying that's bad either. Just again, giving you guys some things to think about. But I think that stuff is good to think about because again, that can kind of maybe help sort what's your big why. Is there something that will stay the same your whole life? Are there some things that will kind of come and go or change and evolve? And again, the example for me is one of my things, my third why is kind of personal progression. I've got to realize what that is. And so I'll give you an example of, honestly, I would love to compete again. I'd love to get back on stage. I still have this idea of what my perfect physique is that I haven't put on stage yet. The reality is to compete at the level that I want to compete at and present the physique that I want to do. It's not healthy. And so if I'm doing something that's not healthy, I'm choosing my third why and I'm placing it up above my first why. I'm getting my priorities out of whack. And as I do something unhealthy now, it's not just for me anymore. Again, that's my biggest fear, honestly, is doing something where I'm not able to do the things that I want to do for my kids, or even worse, not be here for them. And so again, it's a perfect example of a struggle as far as, okay, well, there's still within me this motivation, this drive, this why, a physical expression of wanting to make progress and get better. And as I evolve as a human being, I've just got to find other things to channel that, whether it's just being a better coach, a better trainer, or just still having the best physique walking around on a daily basis. But again, if I think about that kind of stuff, if my third why isn't my main drive in life, personal development focus, and those other things are more important, then I need to find different things there. And I say, because again, 50 years from now, I'm sure as fuck not going to get on stage. And so if I define my only outlet of personal progression, again, as this physical thing, eventually I'm either going to do things that are unhealthy, I'm going to have my actions out of line with what my driving, my whys are, or I'm just going to be sad and grumpy all the time. I'm going to be that person on stage that looks like shit when they're 60 years old, or I'm going to be just the person that's like, kind of like, I joke, it's like the, what's his name? Uncle Rico, that's just talking about still getting put in the big game or something, like kind of living in the past. And so again, that's why I say think about those things. Think about how they fit in long term. Because again, maybe you're single now, maybe whatever. I mean, there's plenty of times in my life I was working 70, 80 hours a week. So again, if you're watching this, I'm not poo-pooing. Like there might be phases, and look at this. So again, it might be right now is the best time. Your top one is self-improvement. And is your top one is to get your business as successful as possible and take it as far as possible. But knowing that's maybe this 5 years, and your actions can be that way. And realistically knowing, I'm going to set myself up in a spot now, and my actions need to be like that, so that 10 years from now, 20 years out, 30 years from now, I can have the life that I want to have to put those other whys ahead, where it's maybe you're recently married and you're planning on, you're going to have a family in 5 years or whatever it is, stuff like that. And so that will be coming back in where I talk a little bit more in the next video, a little bit more about scheduling, this lie of balance, that type of deal, where again, all this kind of stuff is, I think the most thing is just comes back to being a great trainer, comes back, I think, a lot to being happy in life. And again, when you analyze your actions, this is where you really get some perspective is just be great at managing expectations. Because again, like I said, even where I'm at in my life now, my thing is my kids, my family, but I'll give this example later, is let's say there's some project or something bigger. I'm like, man, if I can do this, if I can get this done right, then this is going to create all this extra time for me. And my family and what I want, for decades down the road. So maybe I have 6 months where my actions look like they're more into myself, more into my business, but it's really just kind of an investment so I can create maybe something for myself down the road. And then the trick with all of that is one that some people kind of get caught doing that. And that's the reason I'll see people that say, oh, I made Motivation Drive as family, and they're pushing their business from $1 million business to a $10 million business to a $100 million business. I'm like, you think your family needs $100 million? Your family needs you to be a billionaire? I'm not saying that's wrong, but the same for me. If I say, oh, I've got this project that's a 6-month project, it's grim and gruesome, but like, what if that's the last 6 months of my life? So there's a balance, so there's always a balance there. Nothing's ever easy. It's like, well, how much time do I want to invest in this bigger thing? And how much is that really necessary? And so again, hopefully that's the whole point of this whole section for you, and why I'm providing all these different examples and giving you these different things is take a lot of time to think about all that. What is the why that maybe you'll have that'll be the same in some variation with maybe different people, different situations, a year from now, 5 years from now, 50 years from now, and think about all the lesser ones. Again, so like I said, coming back to me, and again, coming back to you guys, my second one before hopefully myself and helping myself in these, progression and personal things is to help other people. That might look different. It will look different 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, whether it's doing more stuff online, maybe doing more stuff in person, maybe actually working with more people one-on-one, or just finding out how I can help people the most. I don't know. So again, some of those things I know will change and progress and evolve, and some of them I think are getting kind of a little bit more set in stone as far as what they'll look like to a certain degree the rest of my life. So think about those things, guys. Write some things down. Think about the time frame of them. Think about right now. Think about 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Think about how you'll feel when things are the way that you'll want them to be, or where they'll be when I want X amount of business, or I want X amount of this. I want my time or my schedule to look like this kind of stuff. And so again, keeping this personal, keeping my focus on me when I'll get to my schedule, my number one thing is still my family. My number one thing is still my relationships. And if I'm looking on things this year, my biggest thing is looking at efficiency. So again, knowing that I don't want to have any more time away from them, but I still waste time. The big thing that I'm coming back to, and I'll follow up with you guys on this one, is there was a couple years of my life, which is huge, when I had a young family. So my oldest, was between 0 and 3, basically. And then I had my middle child, from 0 to 1, where I didn't have TV, period. And no screens whatsoever. And so I'm getting to a point now where it's like, well, I think I do want to do a little bit more and get a little bit more done at work. And again, just for me, there's some things I want to have and I want to have more comfortable and accomplished, but I don't want to take any time away from my family. And my long-term why is honestly to get more time with my family while they still want it, while they're young and while they're little. And I always joke, as my schedule changes, maybe they get to middle school and high school and they got a million sports and a million friends, and I get an hour of them every day if I'm lucky. maybe I'll start working more. So again, that's some of the things which I'll get more specific in the next videos is what do I want to do? What do I want to look different? Knowing that my family is my biggest why, knowing that there's still things that this kind of financial security and things I want to set up for them down the road, but also knowing that I just want to create as much time with them as possible, then I got to get rid of some time that's some other stuff. And even though it's very, very small amounts, I got to have a balance on those things. So this is the first video. I knew this was going to be the longest. 4 more videos to come. And hopefully you guys find these helpful. Hope you find them beneficial. I've got some notes down below, obviously just kind of the bullet points of each one. And as always, a good spot here. Leave questions, leave feedback. I'm really going to be looking at these the next 5 days. So if you guys, I find stuff that maybe you think about, you don't understand, you want to tell me I'm an idiot, you know, you have questions of your own, what does this look like in your personal life, or you want some clarity, I'll continue to create some content off of these videos. Because again, it's one of those things where we do have a new year rolling around, a good opportunity to kind of look at some stuff that you're doing, reevaluate. And even if it's just slight progressions, great. If someone's going to make a big life change, great. Or if someone's going to just kind of validation of, man, like this is a great year. I've got such a good balance. There is this thing about being content. Even evaluators like, man, I've created a lot of these things. I've worked my ass off for these last decade or two. It's not a bad thing to be content when you've earned it and when you deserve it. So more videos to come. Let me know your feedback below, and hope you guys enjoy this series.